Hi everyone, welcome to another weekly Forex forecast. My name is Justin Bennett with Daily Price Action. And in this week's forecast, we're going to talk about the Euro USD. We then have the Pound USD. We're going to talk about the Dollar Yen. And I'm also going to talk about the Pound versus the Canadian Dollar because we had a big breakout last week. And we're going to wrap things up with gold. And that's one you're not going to want to miss because I do think that gold is on the verge of breaking lower. So you're going to want to stay tuned. And as a special bonus, I have another currency pair that I'm going to give you that is one that you want to keep on your watch list this week. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so here we go, guys. Let's kick things off with the Euro USD. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you get notified every time I post these videos. It would mean a lot to me. All right, so the Euro last week actually played out exactly as anticipated. Notice how the pair sold off from this 110.60 level. And this is one that, go ahead and watch last week's video because you'll notice that this is one I talked about as previous support back here. And then it started to serve as resistance. So it attracted sellers through here. And notice how on Thursday we had this big plunge all the way down to 109.30 support. And that's another one that in last week's video I talked about as a support level to keep an eye on. So essentially what we have right now is a potential double bottom, although I will say that these two touches are a bit close for me to like calling this a double bottom. But if the pair does get above this channel resistance, because notice 111, this is another one I talked about last week as resistance. Notice where Friday sold off from. It sold off right from that 111 mark. And that's no coincidence. That's because we have this descending channel or even potentially a falling wedge because these two levels are not parallel to one another. This is actually a falling wedge, although it is very, very slight. So I do think that the pair will remain under pressure as long as it's below this channel resistance up here at 111. Now, the pair is also kind of stuck between resistance and support. Support now is 110.60 because notice that Friday did close above that level and resistance isn't far away at 111. So for right now, if you're just coming to the table and you're looking to trade the euro, this is not something I would want to trade. If you were able to buy down here, I think it's something great to hold on to, but I would not want to go ahead and buy this right now because the pair is in this tight range at the moment. I think it's far better to wait for a daily close above this channel resistance and then perhaps look for a rounded retest into 110.60 as support. And at that time, it would actually be a confluence of support because we have this horizontal level and we have former descending channel resistance at 110.60. So this would be your confluence of support if we break out this week. If not, we could see the euro head lower. So just keep that in mind. So all in all, just to wrap up, if I zoom in here, essentially, I do think that the Euro USD is going to stay under pressure while below 111. However, I am anticipating buyers to come in and support the pair at 110.60. If we see the pair close below 110.60, I think that would be a sign of weakness and we could see the Euro USD head lower. If we close above this channel resistance up here, then I do think that that 112 handle that I talked about last week, notice how we have all these highs and these lows back here. So I do think that 112 would be a nice target if the pair breaks out of this 111 mark, but as long as it's below it, it will stay under pressure. Next up, we have the GBPUSD, so the pound versus the US dollar. And this one broke out big time last week. We've been talking about this descending channel now for a while. In fact, I think it's been about 2 weeks that we've been talking about this channel. And the reason why back here I was not interested in selling this is, first of all, we had this low down here, and then when the pair came up and tested channel resistance and came back lower, it did form this bullish signal on this day. And furthermore, the very next day, once we had this retest, once I saw this pair coming back up to test channel resistance, I went ahead and stood aside. I did not want to sell a market that looks like this. And sure enough, I even talked about this. We had a breakout on this candle. We then had a retest as new support. And again, just like the euro, go back and watch last week's video and you'll see that I talked about all of this in that video. And furthermore, that Friday session actually held above these highs. So notice, once the pair closed above these highs, it never closed back below it. And this is why I love the daily time frame. So from here, essentially, we had some nice consolidation last week. And right now, what I'm looking for is I want to see buyers come in and prop the price up at 123.80 if we get a retest. Now, there's no guarantee that we will get a retest. There's no guarantee that the pound is going to come back here, retest, and then move higher. For all I know, it could just continue higher this week, in which case I would definitely keep an eye on 125.70. This is one that I also talked about last week as one that could attract sellers. Now, it's not incredibly obvious from the daily time frame. However, if I go to the weekly, you will notice that 125.70 is certainly one to watch. Notice how we have these lows. It broke below the level right here and then started to serve as resistance. Same thing back here. It was respecting 125.70 on a weekly closing basis. So right now, for the week ahead, I'm looking at 123.80 as new support and 125.70 as resistance. If the pound gets through 125.70, I think we could see a move up here to 127.70, which is actually the range high from this price action through this area. Notice we also have this low right here, as well as several lows back in October of last year. If 123.80 does not hold as support, so if we see the pound move lower this week and close back below 123.80, that would be a sign of weakness. So if the pair closes below this level, then I do think we could see a lower pound. However, again, as long as this level is holding on a daily closing basis, I favor buying the pound for a move to 25.70. And if we break that, we could see 127.70. Next up, we have the USDJPY, or the US dollar versus the Japanese yen. And this is yet another one that played out nicely last week. I talked about this 106.80 level. Notice a low, several highs. And at the start of last week, all we had was this candle right here. So this consolidation candle. And I said in last week's video that as long as 106.80 held on a daily closing basis, I favored a move higher. I also pointed out this double bottom that had formed, and that gave me a reason to suspect that the USDJPY would actually come up and close above this channel resistance. I mentioned this last week in a post that I said, you know what, I do think we're heading to 108, but I don't want to sell up here. I don't want to sell because one thing that I like to do is I like to look at timing in the market. So a lot of people just look at a channel like this and they say, okay, when it comes up here, I'm going to sell. Well, you have to look at the supply and demand in the market. And one thing I like to do with a channel is go ahead and draw out the distance between each touch. So if we do that, notice what's happened here. These two right here are about half of these back here. And what that tells you is that the market is starting to get squeezed within this channel. Anytime you start to see a market retest a level more frequently like this, it's a sign that it wants to break higher. Furthermore, this is a descending pattern. We know that this tends to attract buying pressure once it reaches a bottom. And again, we had a double bottom back here. So for this week, I am looking for that 108 area to hold as support. Now, if the dollar yen, because right now we don't have a rounded retest. Right now, Thursday's candle barely closed above it, and Friday retested it as new support. So we don't have a situation where we came up here and then came back and retested it, and we're able to clear out a lot of sellers along the way. Right now, we have a lot of buyers that could be trapped if this thing closes back below channel resistance, which should now act as support. So if we see the dollar yen close the day back below this level, I do think that we could head back to 106.80. However, if we see buyers step in and we get some type of a buy signal, such as a bullish pin bar, I think that we're on our way up to 109. You can see how significant this level has been throughout 2019. And if we close above that, 110.60 is the next level I'm keeping an eye on. But right now, it all comes down to whether or not buyers can prop this thing up above that 108 area. If they can, 109 is exposed. And if the pair closes below this area, I think we're heading back to 106.80. This was a monster breakout for the pound versus the Canadian dollar last week. I talked about this thing 2 times, I believe, last week. And the first time I talked about it, we were still back here. So the pair had just retested this neckline. So notice that the inverse head and shoulders, we have the left shoulder, we have the head, and we have the right shoulder. This qualifies as a pattern. It's not the best head and shoulders I've seen, but it did qualify. And late last week, I pointed out the fact that we were probably going to get a break higher because of the price action I was seeing. So more specifically, you'll notice that we had these higher lows into resistance, which signaled that a break higher was likely. So unfortunately, we didn't get a break here and then kind of a rounded retest. This thing just shot all the way to 166, which was the first target that I had pointed out last week. All right, so for this week ahead, basically what I'm looking for, I want to see this thing pull back, because unless you were able to buy somewhere down here, you don't want to buy this right now because we're sitting right at resistance. It could blow right through 166 and head right up to 169.60. But I do think, based on where the 10 and 20 EMAs are back here, I think that we could see some consolidation here, maybe even a pullback into these highs. So this is something I noted out in the blog post, that if we see a pullback into this region, that we could see some buying pressure. Now, whether or not that will trigger the next leg higher is yet to be seen. But I do think that these highs back here could offer some support for the week ahead. But all in all, again, unless you were able to buy down through this region, I don't think that you want to buy this right now. If we do see a close above 166 and a rounded retest, support holds, then we could see a move up to 169.60. But for right now, this thing is just too far overextended. But regardless, if you were able to get in here, like I know a lot of members were able to do, this thing was an awesome trade last week. I talked about gold last week and how this ascending channel could offer a breakout opportunity in the days ahead. Now, for that to happen, we needed to see a daily close below this confluence of support at 1480. Now notice how the pair or the market actually bounced from this level, and this is something I pointed out to members. I said you don't want to go ahead and just blindly sell this right now as long as we're above this channel, because this thing could come up and pop higher up to these highs and these lows. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Now, there's actually a reason for this candle on Thursday. So this sell-off right here was actually, it was the result of this high and this low through here. However, there is another reason why this thing closed where it did. And this is something that I didn't show on the free site. However, I did tell members about it. In fact, I know some members that were able to sell up here because of it, anticipating this close. And let me show you why I thought that gold was likely to close below 1500. So if I move over here to the weekly time frame, we can see that gold has been trending higher for quite some time. And it also formed an ascending channel that was actually broken back through here. Now at first glance you might say, well, this looks kind of messy because we closed above here and then we closed back below it. So what's going on here? Well, if I move into the daily time frame, you'll see exactly what's happening. Now I've often said that a close above an ascending level like this often results in a false break. So gold closed above this level on this candle through here. You can see how it then acted as support for several weeks. Then last week something happened. Gold closed back inside this channel. And this is what I pointed out to members. And I said, as long as we see gold close below this level, in fact, I specifically said 1500. The 1500 mark is the new resistance level on a daily closing basis. Well, guess what? Gold closed at 1499 on Thursday. So this level is now serving as resistance on a daily closing basis. So this upper wick, there's a reason for this. There's a reason that gold closed below 1500. All right, let me just recap really quick for gold. Back over on the daily time frame, I'm still waiting for this area to break down. So we need to see a daily close below this 1480 area. And if we do, I think that 1450 is the next key support level. And below that, we have the 1400/10 area. But again, a close below this area is key. As long as gold is above it, we could see bounces just like we saw on Thursday. Okay, so I do think that gold could head lower here, but it does need to take out 1480 first. And as promised, I have a special bonus pair for you, and that is the Euro Yen. So first of all, I appreciate you sticking through this because I know this has been a pretty long video, but hopefully you have found it helpful. So the Euro Yen is like many other currency pairs. We have a descending channel, and right now this thing has not broken out just yet. So if we do start to see the euro gain some momentum, so be sure to look at the Euro USD for that. If we see the euro start to gain some bullish momentum, this channel could offer a breakout opportunity. And notice where Friday stalled. It stalled right at channel resistance. So essentially right now, I need to see this 119.80 area break as resistance. So I need to see a close above it, followed by a retest as support. And the reason I want to see a retest is because look where the mean is on the daily chart. So the 10 and 20 EMAs are way back here. So I don't want to go ahead and buy this even if we get a close immediately above it. I want to see some type of retest as new support. And if we get that and it holds, I think 121, this 121 area could be one to watch. Now, if we get through that, I think the better level here is 123.40. So this thing could have some serious upside potential, but first, buyers need to get through channel resistance. Now, if we see the euro yen start to form a bearish pin bar this week, then I do think that could keep the pressure on and we could see a move lower. Because unlike some of the others, if I draw this out, we're not starting to see that kind of pressure that we've seen on other currency pairs. So at the moment, I do think we could see a break higher, but I'm not really starting to see the euro yen get squeezed like we have seen with, even the dollar yen. But again, if we get a break above this resistance area, this thing could have some potential up to 121, maybe 121.20. Get through that, we could see 123.40. That wraps up this weekly Forex forecast. If you found the video helpful, please give it a like and also be sure to subscribe to my channel so you get notified every time I post a new video just like this one.